GraphWorX64 application is accessible from the Start menu right after Iconic Suite installation, but to run them correctly and to have access to all features provided, there are some prerequisites and assumptions to comply. It relates to running essential services, having sufficient license deployed, and security access granted for given user in Iconic Security if Iconic Security is enabled. What is actually the GraphWorX64 role? GraphWorX64 is the most important configuration application for designing, editing, and viewing displays. It can toggle between configuration mode and runtime mode. While the configuration mode allows to edit display objects and data binding, the runtime mode makes the display alive in terms of object animation, data subscription, running commands, resolving aliases, evaluating expressions, and more. Now let's take a look at GraphWorX64 layout. GraphWorX64 configuration environment consists of several main parts, where at the top there is a ribbon menu which has multiple tabs and offers quick access to the most important features and controls. On the left side, we can find a multi-purpose navigator with several tabs, which can show different configuration elements. Those tabs are Object Explorer, Data Browser, Symbol Library, and Toolbox with controls. In the center, there is a place where the main display view is located. On the right part of the layout, there is a Properties panel for accessing selected objects or display properties and dynamic behavior configuration. And at the bottom, there is a status bar showing specific display information, actions, and security parameters. On the other side, the GraphWorX64 runtime environment contains by default only three parts, which are ribbon menu with dynamic content, which depends on the selected objects, and there is always a runtime tab with additional runtime tools. Main view, which shows the live display in runtime environment, and at the bottom there is again a status bar with runtime display information. We can now focus on the most important GraphWorX64 features. In general, GraphWorX64 supports 2D and 3D technology for objects drawing and modeling using extensive palette of tools and features. There is also ready-to-use symbol library, which can be used to help quickly and effectively design fancy screens. All objects, including text, are vector-based, which means you can zoom in and out without any quality decrease. For the best display versatility across multiple platforms and various devices, the display should be based on responsive design. When done, there can be only one display which will dynamically react on the client screen size, aspect ratio, resolution, orientation, and all the objects are still correctly shown in the best possible way, without any overlapping or missing parts. This approach is heavily used for mobile clients or for HTML5 platform. GraphWorX64 offers a lot of controls for data binding, subscription, and visualization. Most of the controls have its own configuration interface and must be configured before usage. For even higher effectivity and ease of use, GraphWorX64 supports the drag and drop feature, so data can be subscribed and placed into position very quickly just by dragging by mouse from the integrated data browser. GraphWorX64 also provides access to a powerful commanding engine, which is implemented to reduce or completely remove the need of scripting. Usage of advanced commanding extends display runtime and dynamic possibilities, speed up the process of data manipulation and inter-object communication. The advantage compared with display scripting is that commanding is cross-versions compatible and there will be no need of redesign in future versions. Another very important feature is global and local aliases support, including global color palette for designing nice color themes for the project dashboard. Aliasing is widely used in almost all projects to dramatically decrease the amount of displays required and improve the overall inter-display and inter-process values propagation. Scope of global aliases validity can be customized according to the project requirements. GraphWorX64 also allows to design and create custom groups composed of multiple simple or complex objects, while some of them exposes certain properties outside of this group. Such groups are called smart symbols. To achieve dynamic behavior in display runtime, GraphWorX64 supports Clone Dynamic, which is able to automatically add or remove cloned objects according to online changes in the project configuration. In the runtime environment of GraphWorX64, there are some useful features and tools available like System Health Monitoring, KPI Works interface, or Data Explorer for viewing the current data values. GraphWorX64 also supports export and import of various display formats used by commonly known vector-based applications. The most important ones are BIM, XAML, SVG, DVG, DVX, and others that are supported as well. Let's talk a bit about display publishing. The publishing is a feature of GraphWorX64 allowing to transfer display or group of displays into multiple formats, which can be then used by various client platforms like HTML5 or WebHMI. For simplifying the publish process, there is a publishing wizard available directly in GraphWorX64 under the File menu. The wizard supports processing of multiple displays at once and allows publishing into different formats, for example, desktop WebHMI, mobile platform, and for legacy clients, also Silverlight format. All of those formats can be created and published in one shot. Requirements for publishing is to have the Internet Information Services installed and running, and also it is required to run the publishing tasks as a user with administrator privileges. If publishing succeeds, all the output displays and related files are stored by default into the PubDisplay folder within the Iconics installation.